They're not trying to wreck their marriages or raise children who walk away from God. They're simply making the best decisions they know how. They're following what feels right. They're trusting their instincts. They're listening to the voices around them, convinced that they're headed towards something good. How many of you ladies, when you were in your first pregnancy, bought and read or borrowed, went to the library or got from a friend the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting? Raise your hand. Yeah, I think it's one of the most famous books in the world, right? The problem is this: everything's not in there, right? There's some good stuff in there that helps you, but not everything is in there. There's some good information, but it doesn't take long, when you go from what to expect when you're expecting into what to expect in the first year. And you read the book and you think you're prepared and ready until this kid does stuff that's not in the book anywhere. And you go, what do we do? They're not supposed to do this, right? And what do you do in that moment? You do the best you can, right? Sometimes you call mom. Sometimes you avoid mom completely. Just don't tell mom that he puked, purple. Don't mention that at all. I don't need to hear the 6 hours on purple puke, kind of stuff. But other times you're reaching. But what are you doing, right? You're not, you don't have this kid and go, let's see how bad we can mess them up, right? Let's just see how bad we can, You're doing the best you can. Every parent anguishes over the decision. Do we let them sleep in our room at all? How long do we let them sleep in our room? When's it time to transition them into their own room? How long do we let them cry? They've been crying for 2 hours. It's killing me. The only way I can make it stop is to stand here and bang my head on the wall, and I'm really, really getting dizzy, It's like, what do you do? You do the best you can, right? You do the best you can. And that's what most people are doing, the best they can. You listen to the voices around, and you're convinced that, yeah, this is what others have done. This is what I'm going to do. What's really funny, though, if you've been around for a while, you know how things change. Now, I'm going to go back to when my kids were little. When my kids were infants and newly born, there was the gadget that every pediatrician said you needed to go out and buy immediately for your kids to help them because of SIDS, which is a very real and serious thing, right? But every parent needs to buy. You guys remember the little foam triangle with the piece of cloth on it? And you prop your baby against it so they sleep on their side, right? And it's super important. Baby sleeps on its side. When my kids had kids, they're like, oh no, all natural. You lay them in there and you let them go, and that's it. And I'm like, well, they told us you had to prop them up on their side. It's amazing how things change over time, right? Some of my grandkids inherited my sleep pattern when I was a baby, and I always slept on my stomach, tucked everything in underneath and face down, right? It's scary for a parent to look at their newborn just face first right into the mattress. And some of my grandkids pick that up, and that's how they sleep, just right straight over. And you look and go, do we leave them like that? Do we flip them over? It says they're supposed to sleep on their back, but when I put them on their back, I rolled over at 7 days. So my mom lost that battle right away. She would roll me over on my back. I didn't like it on my back, and so I'd flip back over on my stomach. But the point is, even when we feel like we're listening to all the right people, things change. And what was at one time isn't anymore. And, I don't think any of the toys I played with a child would even be considered legal today to give a child to play with. Apparently lead-based paint is a thing that's bad for you. I don't think it affected me. I don't know. Anyway, the tragedy with all of this is this: good intentions don't guarantee a right destination. We try our best. People who are outside of the church are trying their best. But good intentions alone don't guarantee a right destination. So here's the question I want to wrestle with this morning. What or who is shaping your decisions? What or who is shaping your decisions? The real issue isn't whether we make good decisions or bad decisions. We all make dozens and dozens of decisions a day, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good. If you honestly think that the Christian life is about being perfect in your decision-making process, you're insane. It's impossible to bat 1,000 on any given day. There's so many decisions that we have to make. There's so many choices we have to make. To get them all right all the time is a burden no one should have to carry it. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, if you've got heavy burdens, bring them to me and lay them at my feet and take my burden, which is light. So I'm going to make your life easier, not harder. We all make lots of decisions every day. The question isn't how we made the decision, it's what's shaping those decisions. What has become the authority in your life? Every decision is influenced by something, whether it's your feelings or your experiences or your friends or culture or God or some combination of those things. Joshua understood that this was the real battle. Near the end of his life, he gathered the nation together and he challenged them with these words from Joshua 24:15. He said, choose this day whom you will serve. He said, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua wasn't just asking Israel to choose that day between good and evil. He was asking them to decide who was going to shape their lives, the lives of themselves and their home and their family. Who would be their king? Who would define what is right and set the standard for their lives and the foundation? Who is going to be the source for your decision-making process? Joshua's generation chose well, but the next generation slowly lost sight of God. And Judges 2:10, the very next book in the Bible, starts off with this. There arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord or the work that he had done in Israel. Oh, we lost that one? Oh, I'm sorry. That one must be on me. I thought I had it there. The book closes. The book of Judges starts with a new generation shows up and they don't know Joshua's God and they don't remember what he did for them. And then we have the whole book of Judges. A nation of people who had forgotten God. Now, that again doesn't mean they suddenly just became evil. And they ran around going, hey, let's destroy ourselves and everyone in the nation. No. They're still good people who loved their homes, loved their kids, loved their families, were kind to their neighbors, worked hard every day, taught their kids, worked towards creating a good life. But the book of Judges closes with this incredible statement in Judges 21:25. It says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That's the point of the book of Judges, right there. That is the whole point of the book. When you read through Judges and you watch the up and down and up and down, up and down and up and down. And then when you get to the end of the book, it's down, 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 down. What you're watching is a nation struggling with their decision-making process of just trying to figure it out. Some days they do well. Some days they don't. And that's what it is. And the truth is, our culture isn't very different. We don't say everyone did what was right in his own eyes, but we say things like this: follow your heart, do what feels right, live your own truth. It's the same philosophy, but different words. And just like Israel, sincere people with good intentions can still find themselves a long way from where they ever intended to be. And that's what happened in the book of Judges. Read through the last 3 chapters of the book of Judges on your own. And if you're under 17, don't. It's nasty. It's just unbelievable. But what you have to remember when you read those last 3 chapters of the book of Judges is at every juncture, at every point of decision making, they were actually trying their best. They were trying to make wise choices and the best that they could do and the best they could figure out. The problem was they had lost sight of God. You see, God never intended for you to guess. That's my second point. God never intended for you to guess. You don't have to fake it till you make it. God says, hey, I know the way. Here it is. And that's the beautiful part of the gospel. God saw this problem long before we ever did. He knew if we simply followed our feelings and our own understanding that we'd eventually end up exactly where the Israelites did in Judges. Doing what seemed right in the moment while living with consequences we never imagined. The end of Judges, I'll just sum it up to you. You have a Levite out traveling with his concubine. There's a lot of discussion on what that represented. She ends up getting horrifically murdered by some evil men from the tribe of Benjamin. The way that murder is responded to and what is done creates an anger in the nation of Israel that just goes bananas. The people lose their minds over what happened with the murder of this girl. One thing leads to another, yada, yada, yada. Before you know it, the nation of Israel is descended into civil war. 11 of the nations joined together as allies to fight against the tribe of Benjamin. Now, I want to just stop for a moment and think about that. That would be like 49 of the U.S. states getting together and saying, we're going to go attack Texas because we don't like what they did. It's exactly what happens. Now, remember, they're trying to do the best they can in light of what has happened. What ends up happening is the nation goes and gets into this horrible, bloody war with the tribe of Benjamin. It becomes so brutal that thousands of people die, and they almost completely annihilate the tribe of Benjamin. They almost completely wipe it out. There's a point at which the king is, the people, there was no king. The people are like, oh, we got to stop, or there won't be any left. And that's what happens. They stop. So then after they stop and they do a head count, they realize there's so few left that they feel terrible about what happened. So they make another brilliant decision. How about this one for a genius move? All right, we almost completely obliterated your tribe. So here's what we're going to do. There's this national day, a traditional national day coming up where we're going to have all of the young teenage girls go out into this wooded area to go dance and enjoy and celebrate this national day in Israel. Then they secretly go to the men of Benjamin and they say, we're so sorry, we almost completely annihilated your nation. What we're going to do to make it up to you is all the guys in your tribe can go out to these woods and take any girls you find and keep them. They're yours. That's exactly what they did. And they lied to the girls. They had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, all these guys from the tribe of Benjamin come, capture them, carry them off, and take them home to be their wives. It's insane. You look at it and you read it and you're like, what in the what? But the reality is they were just trying to do the best they could in light of what was going on. And that's what happens when we don't have an anchor. It's what happens when you don't have a foundation. That's what happens when you don't have a roadmap and a compass. You fake it till you make it. And it wasn't. It was, I know, oftentimes we are so jaded today when we look at leadership, and the title of the book of Judges, those were the leaders of the tribes. The judge was the leader of the tribe. We're talking about leadership, and leadership speaks of government, and we're very jaded today when we look at government and we say, well, they're always making stupid decisions that destroy our lives and everything. The reality is most of the time they think they're trying to do what they think is best. Most of the time. They're trying to make decisions that they think is going to make life better for somebody, somehow, somewhere, some way. They're truly passionate, and they're truly convinced that it's the best way to go. That's exactly what happened in the book of Judges. Unfortunately, it led them to a worse and a worse and a worse and a worse and a worse place. That's what happens. But God saw that tendency in us, and in His Word, He gives us some clarity. In Psalm 119, He wrote this. He said, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. I love that picture because this is what's so awesome about God. God doesn't say, Pat, I'm going to spell out everything that's going to happen in your future right now. I'm going to make it so easy for you. Here's what's going to happen in your life for the next 50 years. Wouldn't it be great right now at the juncture you're at as a graduate to just have God just kind of lay it all out for you so you could see where it was going to go? Wouldn't that make life easier? But God doesn't do that, and I'll tell you why God doesn't do that. Because if He did, you'd freak out. If God ever had told me when I was 18 the things that I would do, the places I would go, the things that I would be involved, just the fact that I would pastor this church for 25 years, I'd have a nervous breakdown. I would have just curled up in a ball and just said, I can't do all that. But what He does promise us in His Word is this: your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. He said, I'm always going to show you where you are, and I'm going to give you enough vision to see where you need to go. I'm not going to show you everything, but every time you step forward, the light is going to travel with you. And you're going to walk with it. And it's not going to show you 2 weeks. It's not going to show you 2 months or 2 years. But it's going to give you enough to see right where you're at right now so you can make good choices with where you are right now. God didn't simply give us His book. He also gave us Himself. Jesus stood before the crowds and He declared this in John 14:6. I am the way and the truth and the life. Truth isn't merely a list of principles or a collection of good ideas. Truth is a person, and that's ultimately where we're going in this message today. God didn't just tell us which direction to go. He came to walk the road with us. If you're going out and any campers here, you like to camp. Anybody here like tent camping? You've gone out, you do tent camping, that kind of stuff. You guys are crazy. There is no such thing as flat, soft earth anywhere on the planet. The nicer looking the area is, the more apt that there's a giant root running right straight across that beautifully flat area, and also that there's a stream that occasionally just runs right through that area in the middle of night while you're sleeping. It's always those kinds of things. But anyway, going out and camping in the wilderness, I did it with my neighbors. I went with them once where we actually backpacked in and stayed camped out in tents at a place for several days. And it was a great experience, but it's scary. It's scary to go out there. Now here's where I'm going with this. Camping can be intimidating, can be frightening. I'm such a big baby that I don't even like to walk the trail over here by 437. I'm terrified a bear's just going to come out and eat me while I'm walking out there in the middle of nowhere. I'm walking and I'm like, there's nobody as far as I can see that way. There's nobody as far as I can see that way. A bear's just going to come running out of the woods and eat me, and nobody's even going to know about it. I'm just going to be gone. And if you've done the trail over there, if you've walked the trail or run or ride your bike you know how often you see the remnants of bears on the path. constantly reminding you, yeah, there was a bear literally here. Here's what's left from behind him as he came across the path, right? And so it can be terrifying to go out into the woods and do that kind of stuff. But let me ask you this. If I asked you to say, hey, we will gear you up, we will give you all of the equipment that you could possibly need, pack it up into a backpack and give it to you, and we're going to ask you to do 200 miles on the Appalachian Trail, would that not be terrifying? Yes? Right? What if I said, not only are we going to give you all of the resources you need and all the equipment you need, but we're going to send Bear Grylls with you? Would that change anything at all? Some of you are going, no. Bear Grylls. First, some of you are going, who's Bear Grylls? He's a Christian man who was in the special forces in England, and he goes out and does crazy stuff in the wilderness and everything. But for most of us, if you know who Bear Grylls is, it changes the whole landscape completely. You don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to have all the know-how, and you don't have to be able to figure everything out, and you don't have to be scared to death about putting your tent together because you've got a guy with you who can do it all and knows it all. And even if everything completely breaks down, he's like, look, we're going to build a shelter. It's going to take 15 minutes, and we're going to be dry and warm all night. Just watch. Come over here, and I'm going to show you how, you can relax. Why? Not because you know all the right things to do, but because you have a guy with you who knows how to do all the right things. Now, hold on a second. Don't just drink out of that stream. Let me show you how to determine whether the water's safe to drink or not. Right? You need somebody like that. Sometimes we confuse in our faith. We think that God wants us to figure it all out. That we go to Him, He tells us how to do it, and then we go live it out. No. That's not the way that this thing works. The way it works is He comes, He joins us, and He's like, we're going to do this together. Come on, let's go. And stuff happens all the time in life. And you're like, I don't know what to do. And Jesus is standing there going, let's have a conversation. Let's work this out together. Sometimes, one of my favorite things about my relationship with Christ, and I know this is mind-blowing, but I believe it's true. I believe there are times when Jesus looks at us and He goes, you pick. You pick. I know your heart is good. I know you're trying your best. I know you've built your life on my word, and that my word is in your heart. You pick. I'm with you in this. Whichever way you go, I'm coming with you. And we're going to be all right. Go ahead. I want to see what you choose. That's part of relationship. I want you to notice, I'm trying to land this by summarizing a whole bunch of stuff at once, but I want you to notice something. In the story where Jesus tells the disciples to go out across the lake, do you notice it isn't Jesus holding the rudder? Where's Jesus while they're going across in the boat? He's sleeping in the bottom of the boat, but He's there. There are times when Jesus goes, you got this, and I'm here. Don't sweat it. I'm going to get you to the other side of the lake. It may feel frantic. It may seem scary, and the waves are big and all of that. But guess what? I'm here with you, and I want to see how you handle this. And just know, just like Peter in the incredible challenge that Jesus gave him. Peter's like, Lord, if that's you out on the waves, call me to come to you. And Jesus says, come on, Peter. Now, we get down on Peter because he didn't do so well in that. But come on, guys, he got out of the boat. He got out of the boat. It's like, people say, I'm in a perfectly good airplane. Why would I jump out? Right? For people who like to skydive. I'm in a perfectly good plane. Why would I jump out? I'm in a perfectly good boat. Why would I get out? Peter knew Jesus so well that he knew if Jesus said, come on, Peter, Peter said, it's all good. Jesus called me. I'm going. And what I want you to see is, even in that, when Peter failed, when he got his eyes off of Jesus for a moment, and he began to look at the wind and the waves, and he got scared, and he started to sink, did Jesus just go, "Tut, tut, Peter. Bad, Peter. You have failed, Peter. You are the weakest link. Goodbye." Is that what Jesus did? No. He reached out and he grabbed him. He pulled him up, and he walked him back to the boat, and they got in. And I don't think the other disciples were like, "Ha ha, Peter." No, I think they were all like, "Peter, you just walked on water, dude. Twice. Way out and the way back. That's so cool. What did it feel like?" Right? We don't have to be perfect, but we have to be in relationship and be taking our lead from Jesus. Look at what Jesus said. Go ahead, give me the abide verse, the next one. Jesus said, "If you abide in my word, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." There needs to be that connection. We don't bring Jesus along like the bobblehead on the front of our car. Don't matter if it rains or freezes, as long as I got my plastic Jesus on the dashboard of my car, right? I can drive 100 miles an hour as long as I got that blessed power, Jesus isn't a magic talisman that you bring along on the trip. And when you're packing your bag, I got to get my Jesus in here so he'll protect me. No, Jesus said, "If you abide in my word, you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Jesus said, you've got to be connected to my word and to me. And when that's flowing into your life, then you've got the right foundation to direct you, and I'm with you. And there are going to be 100 million decisions you're going to have to make in your life that are not explicitly spelled out in this book. And it's just not going to say, "Thou shalt" or "Thou shalt not." You're going to be, "What do I do?" Well, Jesus is with you. And you have his word in you. And in a lot of those cases, you just go, "What do you think? We're in this together, buddy. What do you think?" And there are times when we may need to spend a lot of time asking Jesus to help guide us through that. But it's about the relationship at the end of the day. This is not a free-for-all. I am not saying the Christian life is go do whatever you want. No, I'm saying the Christian life is to abide in his word, get so much of his word in you, and know that Jesus is with you in relationship, that you get to a place where you're safe. You're making decisions based on the word of God and the knowledge of the relationship you have with him. Do I want to go into that place? Jesus, do you want to go into that place? I didn't think so. No thanks. We're going to keep going. Sometimes it doesn't have to be spelled out. It's about the relationship. It's about the relationship that's there. The world we live in is like a person in a boat in the middle of the ocean. Have you ever gone on a cruise where you've been out in the boat far enough where you see no land anywhere? It's really freaky. I mean, it can be really frightening. You're just looking in every direction and go, "There's nothing nowhere." If something goes down, there's nobody and nowhere to go. For most of our world, what we have are people in boats in the middle of the ocean with no map and no compass, and they're just trying their best, rowing in whatever direction looks good in the moment. Oh, there's a boat over that way. There's some light over there. Let's go see what is out. Sometimes it's just you find some other boats, and you gather together with the other boats, and you just feel a little safer because it's not just you alone. It's you with, 25 other people. And nobody really knows what they're doing, and nobody really knows where they're going, but at least we're together. That's where most of the world is. It's not like they're saying, "Hey, let's look for an iceberg and sink this baby." But they generally don't know. They're trying to figure it out, and they don't know which way to go. Ultimately, the truth is a person. I got to land this thing. I'm way over. Jesus wants to be in relationship with us. And the more that we walk with him, the more that we recognize his heart, we begin to sense what would honor him and what wouldn't. Not because we're afraid of breaking a rule, but because we've come to know the one who loves us. The Bible doesn't answer every question we'll ever face, but it continually introduces us to Jesus. And the better we know him, the more our decisions naturally begin leaning in the right direction. That's the magic. And I want to go back to that little boat illustration again. Think about the difference. Alone in a boat in the ocean with no map and no compass. But Jesus, the one who created the seas and the ocean, gets in the boat with you. Do you need a map and a compass anymore? No. He knows every wave. He knows every direction. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to grab the rudder and take over. But it means he's in the boat with you and you're in conversation and relationship with him. Again, he's not just a bobblehead you stick in the corner, but you're in a relationship and you're learning from him. And he's saying, I think it'd be best if we head a little more in this direction. I think you're going to find that things start to improve a little bit if you head that way. And you're like, okay, Jesus, let's go check it out. It isn't that he demands the rudder all the time. It's about the conversations in the boat. It's about knowing you have the Lord of all creation with you in life and that you're connected to him. And there are many times when he says, I trust you. Go ahead. Take the rudder. I want to see how you do. That's relationship. Parents, do you do everything for your kids? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. But you don't, do you? Because why? You want them to mature and grow up and experience and learn. So they got to figure it out. You got to figure out. I know it's hard to open the backpack and put the stuff in and zip it back up, but you got to start to learn. And it's okay if you struggle a little bit. You just work on it. Here, let me show you. And you let them do it. You let them struggle, and you let them learn, and pretty soon they've got it figured out. I want to close with this verse because I think it's one of the most beautiful. It's one of my new favorite verses. It's Deuteronomy 5:29. You got it there? Good. Listen to this verse. This is beautiful. Oh, that they had such a heart as this always, to fear me and keep all my commandments, that it might go well with them and their descendants forever. Can you hear the Father's heart there? This verse is almost heartbreaking. Notice what he says, they and their. What do those words create? They create distance. They create distance. They, them, they, their. It's not us and we. It's they, their. Those who are apart from God, those who are far from him. God's heart is broken. He said, oh, that they had such a heart as this always, that they would come close to me and enter into relationship with me and walk through this together with me. Because if they did, I could bring them success in life and things would improve and I can bless not only them, but their descendants forever. That's God's heart for you. That's God's heart for your children and your grandchildren. And it's like God's heart, his desire. He's like, oh, please, just come near. Come into relationship and watch what can happen. So, listen, decisions matter. They dictate the direction of our lives. But the more important question is, who is influencing your decisions? Who's influencing your decisions? You're not going to get them all right all the time, no matter what. That doesn't mean you don't try your best. But what you find out is if you start to walk through this life with God and get to know him, his life influences our lives. And those decisions start to get a little bit easier. And I'll close with this. I've got to end. In Genesis chapter 5, verse 22, it says this, and Enoch walked with God. Man, that's the legacy I want to leave. Enoch had relationship with God, and he walked with him until he wasn't anymore. That's the relationship God is calling you to walk with him through life every day. Because many answers are in this book, but not all of them are here. And we need to be in relationship with Christ, to know him, to walk through it. Not only do we need to learn the word and be in the word and reading the word and let it be the foundation of our lives, but we also need to be in relationship with Jesus because he is the truth. And when you begin to know his nature and know him, decisions start to become easier because you know him. And you're just like, and many of you know. People invite you to places or to do things or be a part of stuff, and you know your spouse well enough that as soon as the question is asked, you're like, oh no, I know my wife or my husband wouldn't want to do that. No thanks. Thank you for the invitation though. Why? Because you know them. You know them. You know miniature golf is not their thing. And they don't want to do a miniature golf tournament, you know? If you came home and like, guess what, honey? I signed us up for a miniature golf tournament at 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon in the heat of the day. Isn't that great? And you'd be like, why? I thought you knew me better than that. When's the last time I ever asked you to go miniature golfing, right? It was a swing and a miss. But if you know them, you're like, they're not going to want to go to miniature golfing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, right? It's about knowing him. And he offers himself to you. He says, I'll get in the boat with you.